So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. News is coming out of California about a layoff happening with the Pizza Hut delivery drivers, and we've got to talk about this today. So we know this first because of the WARN Act. The WARN Act is the Worker Adjustment Retraining Notification, and it's a federally and, for California, state-required act that gives employers a 60-day notice to the affected employees and both state and local representatives before a plant closing or mass layoff. And what happened here is for the federal one, layoffs of 500 or more are covered regardless of the percentage of the workforce. In California, an employer has to give 60 days prior to plant closing, layoff, or relocation. In addition, notifications required to the notifications required under the Federal WARN Act. The notice also has to be given to the local workforce development board and the chief elected official of each city and county government with which the termination, relocation, or mass layoff occurs. If you don't do this, it's $500 per day for each day of violation, and employees can receive back pay to be paid at an employee's final rate. This story all requires a lot of back history and backstory, and I'm going to attempt to give you some baseline and then take you back a little bit, right? Because there's a lot of interesting topics around here. So first off, there was Assembly Bill 1228. That is Assembly Bill 1228, and this law raised the minimum wage of fast food workers, established a fast food council, and focused on no longer funding the Industrial Welfare Commission. And basically, it was a compromise from AB 257, and there was a compromise here where they were going to put in a joint liability on the fast food franchisors. The fast food franchisors opposed this. They were refunding the Industrial Welfare Commission, which created industry-specific wage boards. And so all of these bills were fast-tracking, and it seems, at least to my appearances, that they were kind of being held hostage. The government knew that they were going to pass all these things. It was sort of already going to be stamped. The fast food industry was opposing it. They said, okay, here's our compromise, which is, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, not a compromise, but ultimately set a minimum wage rate of $20 per hour for workers in the sector. And again, they also set a minimum wage rate of $25 for healthcare workers. And while there is, of course, varying degrees of healthcare workers, and that's a difficult thing because, for one, the $20 rate was not split up based on the cost of living and things like that, whereas the $20 fast food wage was not split up based on cost of living or anything else, but the healthcare one actually was. And there were parts of the healthcare minimum wage that would bring them equal to fast food workers. Regardless, they put that into place, and Assembly Bill 1228 was signed by Governor Newsom into law. And that, was a huge increase. So let's take everyone back a little bit further. There was also Assembly Bill 5. Now, this will be a little bit unrelated, but ultimately related to this discussion. Assembly Bill 5 was a catastrophic bill that was supposed to ban independent contractors. It ended up banning a whole lot of people. And by banning, I mean, for example, musicians became employees of the bars that they played music at. It was an unmitigated disaster for literally everyone involved. There were a lot of unintended consequences, weird exceptions, because it was, intended to be specifically directed at Uber and at Lyft. That ultimately was repealed by Proposition 22, which was a win for Uber and the other gig companies, and ultimately found that Assembly Bill 5, that overturned Assembly Bill 5. I have quite a few videos on this. I'll link them down below so that you can kind of understand what's going on with AB 5, Prop 22. I have a long list of these, but ultimately, so they increased the minimum wage starting at the beginning of this year, or this coming year. And then in addition, the independent contractor was taken out through Prop 22. Well, of course, contractors don't have to get the minimum wage because they're contractors, not minimum employees. And so minimum wage employees. And so this Pizza Hut chain these two franchisees are going to push their drivers to Uber Eats, or they're going to terminate their drivers and then push them on to Uber Eats. If they do that, right, these drivers are now independent contractors under Uber Eats. They will make much less. They'll have to pay their own payroll tax and everything that goes along with it. So if they were making, for example, $15 an hour, the payroll tax could be quite substantial, and as a result, they could be facing severe decreases in pay. Depending, of course, they'll lose their health care and everything that goes on with this. But these people who were, employees, tipped employees as delivery drivers for these franchisors under Pizza Hut, have now, I imagine some will get other jobs or work inside in a Pizza Hut, of course, or they will be pushed into Uber Eats after they lose their job here. Let me know what you think. Is this sort of industry by industry minimum wage a logical thing? I think that is my biggest problem with these. These are clearly funded by special interest groups. The California government has so much said that, and as a result, there's been some really weird fallouts where, for example, you have people who could be nurses want to become fast food workers, right? Because you can make $20 an hour. Why wouldn't you be if all things are equal? Why would you want the stress of being in the medical field if you could make $20 an hour flipping burgers? And it's related to these very interesting and distorting results. And I want to know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.